Okay, so we're back a little bit from the sickness. I do apologize if you ordered a radio and there's still a delay, but I am going to work today to get some of those caught up. Today I'm looking at this is a Ranger Superstar 158 Victor Delta X-Ray VDX. I guess it's one of the newer Rangers that they have out. It's a nice looking radio, but I'm aligning the radio right now, so I'm doing the PLL, and then I'll go through the TX side of it as well. And this was one that is kind of interesting to me anyways, but they all share a similar board, so a lot of the stuff is the same, even if you can't find data on the exact radio that you're looking for. Like right now I'm using the service manual off of the 69 base. You can see the board that the 69 base uses, the numbers right there on the screen, and you can see that the board that they use on this is relatively the same. So most of your adjustments for people that know Ranger boards always are basically the same. You got all your TX stuff in here. You do have a TX chain in here. I'm really picky about that, but I'm not probably going to adjust any of it yet because I haven't seen really the testing part of that side yet. But when you have a sideband radio like this, what ends up happening is you almost detune sideband to the point where it doesn't work when you clean up some of the spurious emissions that you might see on like a carrier on AM or FM. So you have to kind of, even though you may want to do that, you almost have to avoid doing it because otherwise there's no performance at all on SSB. So that's one thing I've learned over the years is with these kind of radios is you're not going to expect it to be is super like some of that spurious stuff. Is just the design of the radio. So what can you do? You almost just have to leave it if you want the radio to put out power on sideband. So anyways, not a lot of guys really ever show that or talk about that, and I'm not really going to invest a lot of time in it either. I'm assuming the guys that deal with these kind of radios more on a daily basis would already know that kind of stuff anyways. But I do a little bit different approach on these. You can see I have this as a probe here. It's like an RF sniffing, and it's like an antenna basically. It's just we're basically making the spectrum analyzer have an antenna, and we're trying to see what we see on the screen to read frequency. So that's what we're doing right now. It's telling me I want to see about 16.27250 megahertz plus or minus 20 hertz. So we are out of calibration right now on this radio. So you can see if I take this, and you can't see the screen, but they want you to go to test point 3, which is like somewhere in this range. But you can kind of pick up on it anywhere around the board. Like there's a super strong point here. I'm just basically taking a reading off this crystal here. So a lot of this stuff is, the circuit is all intertwined. So we got 16.272.537. So, and they want what? 16.272.5 plus or minus 20. So we're a little too high on this one. So it's not very difficult when you have the right tool to do the job. You just set it up, and that's pretty much it. I'm assuming most Rangers don't deviate from this because all the other radios I've seen usually always have these same offsets. And there you have it. I mean, that's how you do it. So this is a 1 kilohertz span on the spectrum analyzer, so pretty darn close. If I lift that up off the board, you can still see it picks it up a little bit. So you can get it off test point 3 right there. You can still hit it there, but I find, man, that crystal really produces that signal well. So same difference. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. I don't know at the end if it's going to make a huge difference with this kind of radio or not, but that's something, they should go through them anyways and do that. And at the end, we'll see how it works. And again, it's basically just a flip-flop kind of thing. So you have your high and low switch on the front. So now basically what we're going to do is look for another frequency, It's supposed to be 13.57250, and you can see where it's at. It should be lined up on the center of the screen. You see where that little arrow is at the top under the time and date? That should be where it's lined up, where that signal is, but it's way out of adjustment. So all that stuff makes a difference, I think, in the long run. Obviously, I don't generally sell these or anything, but these kind of radios, if I did sell them, I would definitely have to charge money to do what I'm doing, because these take time, and you know, if you don't have the right equipment to do it, it's never gonna work as well as it should. The design is a certain way. They're supposed to, you know, the board's supposed to follow certain frequencies, you know, for the way things work. And if you don't have that right, then the radio will never work right. You can't just go in and put an HF radio in line and try to line it up like that. I mean, people do try to do that, but this is the better way to do it. It's the correct way to do it. And you got to charge money. Not that I'm saying I want to sell these or charge money to do it, but if I did in another time or something, obviously, you know, you can't do this stuff for free. It's just way too time consuming, and that's part of the reason why I never really wanted to sell the Ranger stuff, because it does take too much time, I think. And again, that's how it's supposed to look right there, so now it's better. So I'm not going to go through anymore. I just wanted to kind of show that, you know, it's rather time consuming. I mean, if you do this stuff every day, you can probably just knock it out rather quickly, but you know, to do it right, obviously you got to have a good gear. It's going to be very difficult to try to use just a standard frequency counter to do it. You might need like a preamplifier hooked up to the input of your counter, because they're generally not going to have enough dynamic, you know, pickup to really be able to read. I mean, they might, but this way works so much better. So that's my opinion on it anyways. Get yourself some probes like these. They come in all different sizes and stuff, and you can do it. Now you can basically pick up this signal, like I say. I mean, it's up here above the radio. I can see that signal as I move closer. You know, as you travel around the board, you can almost track how the circuit goes from point A to point B almost, you know. It's kind of neat anyways to track the RF. It's like this is, you know, like I said, basically an antenna. It's really crazy on this one, on the lower sideband offset, how far it's actually off. So if you were to reference what I'm looking at, I'm just looking at like right here. L19 is the first one, the band switch. You know, obviously it doesn't matter really. You could tell on your spectrum analyzer. If you're not getting a reading, you get the wrong band switch setting. But if I switch it, I won't get a reading at this frequency. It'll shift to the 13 megahertz one. But that's, you know, it should be 16.2675 plus or minus 20 hertz. And again, it's 16.2677, which is way out of whack. So again, we're looking for that center of the screen there. That's where I have the center frequency set to. So it pretty much does it for you. You just line it up. Yeah, so it's pretty much done. The one thing I didn't see, and maybe I just don't see it on the board, is a adjustment for the frequency counter. Now everybody says, oh, you got to have a 6-digit to use sideband, and these aren't even frequency counters. It's just a display. There's no accuracy, time base, or anything on this. Is not a frequency counter like what this would be, or you know what's built into the gear. These are just frequency displays, so you do not need a 6-digit on a CB radio or a 10-meter radio in this kind of traditional format, because they don't work the way you would expect it to work. And some guys, I guess, are mesmerized because you get an extra digit that never really sits where it should. It just kind of floats around. I myself wish they wouldn't make them with 6 digits, because number one, it usually doesn't line up properly. Maybe I just don't see the spot on the board to make that 1 a 0, but usually it's in this usually it's in this general area, but there's not a spot there. Usually there's a VC1. This is the FM deviation, I believe. So I'm probably just not seeing it if they moved it or something. You know, you have all these wires and stuff everywhere, so it's probably down in there somewhere. I just don't see the little VC spot, but you know, regardless of that, no one should really go off of these as being really accurate anyway. So after the whole alignment's done, when you transmit, you're never going to be perfect anyways. but at least it's somewhat respectable and on frequency now versus where it was a couple hundred either way or whatever. So just curious to check like LSB just to see where that's at. Again, you can't, and I'm a stickler. I always expect, like, you know, exceptional performance, and sometimes, you know, we have to just accept that the radios are what they are. A lot of guys really like them. They're popular, that kind of thing. So this is lower sideband, so we're gonna, hopefully we'll see like 26964 or something, and hopefully with some zeros when I send the tone into the freak counter here, just to see that somewhat. Actually, we need some modulation, so let's give it a little modulation. Yeah, it's not horrible. Again, you know, it's 18, 19 hertz high on frequency, but that's a heck of a lot better than 100, 200, whatever they usually come out of the factory with. So we can deal with that. Let's go to upper. I think it'll let me just switch modes without yeah, so it's about the same there as well. So that's very, for this kind of radio, that would be about as good as it's probably going to get. And obviously you have your course. If you move that a little bit, now there is a D10 on this radio, so I didn't move it, and just to let somebody know that, but that's going up. So it's right in the detent position right now. I wish they wouldn't put a detent, because it kind of inhibits a little bit of maybe what you want to do. It's just slightly off the detent a little bit, so that's looking good now. Go back to lower. The lower's a little off, so each one has its own offset. And that's in the, it's hard to see because I'm not looking at the radio. Well, that's pretty good there. So again, you know, you can't expect perfection. The radios do work. Obviously they will. You know, you should align them when you, if you like these kind of radios, get them to where at least they line up with some of the factory data. Even if you're using another radio, all those frequency offsets and stuff are usually the same. So as far as that goes, I think that's back into the detent right there. So yeah, it seems like it worked out halfway decent. So let's just flip this around and have a quick peek at it. Still checking lower sideband, so I think I'm in the detent right now. And what I mean by that, if you don't know, there's a spot where it stops, and now it's in the detent. But see, that's why I don't like a 6-digit counter, because this is telling me I'm at a 2, and that's not right. The only reason why the counter says a 4, if you don't know why, the real simple explanation is when you put a 1 kilohertz test tone in, it changes the frequency down 1 kilohertz, and we're on lower side, that's why it went down. So if I go to upper, it goes up. So, you know, but just slightly out of the detent, it's pretty much right where it should be. So it's kind of touchy, but you know, at this point you're close enough where if you're listening to somebody on the air, you can just touch that up a little bit and you're going to be right there where they are. So, you know, the alignment does work. The problem is, again, like I've said before, I didn't see a way to adjust that. I want that to be a 0, not a 2. So to me, I don't like that. And even on receive, it's you know, I have to do that to make it a 0. So well, there it goes. But you know, it's, get rid of that. You know, if this were my radio, I'd probably just put a piece of, unless I figure out later how to adjust that, I would just put a piece of tape over it or something. Like, remember in the old cars when we had the check engine lights or brake lights or whatever, guys would get sick of it. Your mechanic would tell you it's nothing important, you don't worry about it, it's some stupid sensor or something that you don't need. Put a piece of tape over it on the dash, and believe me, people did it. You know, I'm not saying you should put a piece of tape over your radio, but I mean, I don't need this. If it said that, I'd be perfectly happy, because then whatever this is doing, it doesn't matter. And I like the base stations, I think it's the 69 or something, because they don't have a 6-digit, because it's not necessary. If you align the radio the right way, you don't need a 6-digit to see where you are or anything. You go off sound. And if you're hearing somebody on sideband, and you know, you either, especially most guys are on different style radios anyways, where they're always on Freak on TX anyways, so you tune to them with the course. You really don't even need to unlock the fine. You just use the fine as it's intended for reception only. If somebody's that far off anyways, you know, you don't want to tune to somebody in an unlocked clarifier situation where they're way out of frequency anyways. You want to tune where the majority of people are that you hear on that frequency. You know they're on frequency. You use your course for that. And you tune the guy that's like whatever, you know, you'd get him in like that. So I would never unlock it anymore on these. I was kind of a fan of doing that before, but I wouldn't do it anymore. I don't think it's worth it. If you spend the time and you align the radio, you're probably going to be within 20 to 50 hertz anyways, which is pretty good on this kind of radio. But you know, not everybody is picky, but some guys are, and you know, we'll put that back in TX. So you know, you can always adjust it a little bit with the so that's what kills me. It's saying 50, and now we're a little low on frequency. So you know, there's got to be an adjustment on the board for that, and maybe it's on the back side of the frequency counter or something. They may have moved it, and I just didn't see it because I didn't want to disassemble the radio. But that's not bad. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. It's lining up right where it should. So obviously much better than how it came from the factory. It's a very nice looking radio. It does have this new touch thing, I guess, that some of the other ones have, where you can touch it and you can adjust it, the color and stuff like that. So I do like that everything's one color versus some of the other radios in the past where they had this is one color and this is a different color and this is blue. I like we're going back to the more basic look. I don't know, it's kind of cool anyways, but you know, let's just quickly test the power. I did kind of align this thing up before I did the TX and the PLL, so I don't know how well that stayed, but we'll just take a quick peek at it. So this is I'll just go here. We'll just go here and talk. What is this? Turn the mic gain back up. And the RF power is all the way up. Okay. So that's this sideband right here. So the power, this isn't a powerhouse radio, and I actually like that better. We got enough high power radios on the market. Some guys don't want a high power radio. They just want a nice lower powered radio. And this is probably a better option for that type of operator, you know. Obviously I didn't crank this thing up to the max or anything, so it's pretty conservative on sideband. I think they can do probably closer to 40 or 50, but then it's real dirty, real dirty. And I didn't adjust that tuning circuit at all. Technically I should go back through that and probably readjust it. Yeah, I set this for about 8-watt carrier. 1 2 3 4 5, check, hello, 1 2 1 2, hello, radio. So it's not too bad, you know. And I think I set it to about 96% audio, and I'm just using a cheap mic. Well, I don't know who makes this, Workman or something, but I figured a superstar radio deserves a superstar mic. Probably anything else would probably sound a little bit better than this. So like a good quality 532 or something would sound much better on this than this mic, but yeah, it's doing good power. And then if you lower it down all the way, I think I set it for like 2 or something, so yeah, 2.5, and it swings up. So it gives you that swing like guys want, you know. These have that. I think the mod here is more like 93, 92 some odd percent, but as you can see, I mean, it's still traveling quite high from the low carrier, so it is what it is, you know. It's a fun radio, I think, for those that would like it. It's got a Roger beep, Excuse me. You guys can hear what I'm dealing with here still. So it's got talkback, it's got echo. You just have to adjust it, I think, on the board. One. There you go. A little bit of a repeat. Could really piss some people off with this radio. Kind of brings me back to the old days of radio. There you go. So you probably would definitely want to adjust that if you were going to use this as your daily radio, if you like echo. Alright, well, I'm not planning on selling these or anything, but I figured I would just show it. It's kind of a cool radio. I want to thank Ranger for sending me out the replacement. The first one that I bought, it had some issues, so they sent me out a new one, and this one works great. And the only thing I need to know, inquiring minds want to know, is how do we line up that clarifier so that we're off of the 1 and still stay on frequency. So obviously we can do it like that, but then, you know, it's still always going to be off. I think it's just honestly the way the radio is. So at a certain point you just have to accept it, maybe. Yeah, so it's usually a 1 or something. So I guess I could live with it if I had to, but again, I probably would just put like a piece of black tape over that and just get rid of it because it annoys me. This is the SS158 Victor Delta X-Ray VDX. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If not, plenty of other radios on the market that you may or may not like. Everybody has a preference. 73. Alright, so I just didn't look hard enough. So yeah, there's a VC1 on the back of the free counter board. I mean, that makes sense. So I don't know if I can show it or not, but because there's all these wires in the way. Let me see if I can show anyone that wants to know. It's gonna be down in this area. Yeah, right there. See where that blue wire is? Let me see if I can't try to point at it. This little blue wire, there's a little adjustment there. If you have one of these sitting in front of you, you could see it. It says VC1, and you're able to correct any inaccuracy that the counter display might have. So that's all you have to do. So now, with the radio in full detent, which is probably the best way to align this anyways, you align it, and then you want to correct any issue with the freak counter display after the fact. And I can touch that up a little bit if I really got picky, but now at least it reads 0. So I'm going to check sideband, a couple of those, and see. This will be kind of I'll throw this into the main video I made. Okay, so I'm glad I know where VC1 is now. And when you adjust VC1, you basically have to realign your TX offsets. So VC1, I believe, also changes what VR7 would show. So they tell you to look for a certain frequency on transmit on lower sideband with VR7. So when you do that and you adjust VC1, it messes everything up. So you have to go back through and just realign the radio. And again, the right way to do it is kind of how I do it with the probe. Use the spectrum analyzer, have a good GPS reference going in to the spectrum analyzer so that way you get a really good time frame, time base, and then you should be all set. I mean, we can see now, and when I line it, I make sure that I'm in the detent on the course. I can't guarantee it's always going to stay at 0 though. It's just the way it's not a true frequency counter. Like I said, it's a display. So unfortunately, there's going to always be a certain chance that it could change. But that's AM, that's upper, that's lower. TX hasn't changed on lower. Upper hasn't changed. AM hasn't changed. So that's good. You also want to make sure that you take out the mirror. I call it the mirror board. I don't know what everybody else calls it, but you want to take this out so that way you're not just stressing the radio, because you stay keyed up sometimes for a while when you're adjusting these things. You don't need power output. When you're reading directly off the board, you don't need power output. You do need power output if you're trying to do it the other way and you're trying to just line things up by sound, which isn't really the right way to do it anyway. So you can do it if you don't have any other way, but it's not the best way. So I'll try to cut this in really quick to the video where I was talking about, oh god, it annoys me. Well, it doesn't annoy me as much now because I just fixed it. Okay, so at the end of the day, once you align it the right way and you fix the counter and make it show 0, this is on TX on lower sideband, so we can see now how it looks. It's staying at 0, which is a good thing. And obviously you have this adjustment here for receive, so that's, you know, something you can figure out where it should be. But on TX, you know, it's not changing, so that makes me happy. Doesn't change on AM either. So all in all, yeah, not too bad. Pretty smooth alignment process. You know, fun radio for somebody that likes this kind of radio. Obviously, you got to make sure you don't get fingerprints all over it like I did. I think those are fingerprints. I don't know what they are, but I don't think I did that. But maybe I did. I don't know. I'm sure they'll wipe off though if I really try. I don't know what the heck that is. Some gunk or something. I know I didn't do that because this was a brand new radio I just unboxed, so it's like some stickiness or something. But yeah, it's nothing's perfect, you know, but it definitely is a pretty looking radio. I got an overhead light on, so if I shut that off a little bit. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video here. It's super easy to convert. Couple jumpers is all you move, and you get all this extra stuff here. Not really, none of this is really usable, in my opinion. Why would you need it? But a lot of other radios go super low too. So for those that like this kind of chassis, it kind of has the same, what the heck it's doing there. That's kind of weird. I think the PLL comes unlocked at a certain point. That's what's happening. So although it says it can do these frequencies, I don't really think that it can. So that's, I believe, what's happening up here. You could kind of hear it lock back in. So nobody's buying these radios to use in these frequencies anyways, for the most part. So we know what people buy these for to use, that kind of thing. So but it gives you the opportunity, I guess, if you wanted to try to use it up on 10 meters, you could. For a lot of the technician class and stuff like that. I don't know how well it would work or anything, but you know, if this is all you had, something's better than nothing. That kind of thing. But just wanted to kind of show what it does, and you know, where it'll take you, pretty much anywhere and everywhere. So here's a 10K to hit the in-betweens and all that. So it's kind of like if we would have had this probably back in this kind of reminds me of the Connex 4800 DHL, I think is what they call it. It kind of reminds me of the same radio, and maybe it is. Maybe it's just a newer version of that. But I had one of those, and that thing was trash back in the day. Somebody got in it and really messed it up, and it just went to the junk pile, I think, long time ago. But anyhow, be a fun radio to play with here. I'm not selling it or anything like that. This is one I just got for me, just because I was curious. Alright, again, appreciate everybody, and give Ranger a little love today on the Superstar 158VDX 73.